For business news with Stephen Carroll. Good to see you, Stephen. You're
Thanks,
starting out in Lebanon, where the central bank has reversed a decision on bank withdrawals after protests.
Yeah, a bit of context to this. Lebanon is in the midst of what the World Bank is calling the worst economic and financial crisis in 150 years. One of the big problems has been the collapse in the value of the Lebanese currency, the Lebanese pound. As a result, dollars have become even more important, particularly to pay for goods, imported goods. But the country is also facing a shortage of dollars. Now, this latest twist happened when Lebanon's bank scrapped a special exchange rate that had been put in place in an effort to try and limit a run on the banks, to stop people taking all of their dollars out of the banks a year ago. He scrapped this middling rate, the 3,900 Lebanese pounds to the dollar rate. That system had been in place for just over a year. The difference is the official rate is only 1,500 pounds. The parallel market, the unofficial rate, is around 13,000 Lebanese pounds. It's a pretty big difference, but what you get for your money. What had happened was on Wednesday, the central bank scrapped that middle rate. The central bank has now gone back on that decision after protests in Lebanon over it. What it essentially had done is wipe more than half the value of people's dollar accounts off because they couldn't take them out at the rate that had been previously agreed. A very complicated system that's actually led people to dub it lollars because of the absurdity that's involved in the exchange rates.
And I can't imagine what sort of impact this is having on people's lives.
At a national level, a shortage of dollars causes all sorts of problems for buying imported goods. In Lebanon, we've seen problems where medicines have been running short in hospitals as the central bank has been subsidising the purchase of them, but has said now the government needs to find $1.3 billion to pay bills currently owed to suppliers. The medical system, in the meanwhile, is cancelling non-urgent surgeries to cope with the shortage of supplies, as Solange Mojan now reports.
When Mira Hasbini's mother fell and broke her leg, it should have meant a simple surgery. But operating wasn't possible right away for a lack of medical supplies.
It was a disaster. She was in a lot of pain. She's old, but she can say, "Give me medicine," and she can take morphine. I don't know what we would have done if it had been a child.
Shortages are hitting Lebanon's health system hard. It's not that vital supplies can't be ordered and imported, it's the government currently can't pay for them. They already owe $1.3 billion to foreign suppliers. A crisis compounded by political deadlock that's left the country without a government and thus the ability to enact reforms and ask for international help.
The main problem is political. A government must be formed so we can get foreign aid. Without external support, we as a hospital sector cannot get back up on our feet.
The World Bank says Lebanon's financial and economic crisis is among the worst the world has seen in 150 years. A shortage of dollars is hurting imports of many essential goods, including fuel. There are daily 12-hour power outages. Inflation is rampant. The Lebanese pound has lost 85% of its value, pushing more than half of the population into poverty.
Now, Stephen, China has accused several clothing brands of selling goods that could be harmful to children.
A warning notice from the country's customs authority listed 81 products from brands like Nike, Zara and H&M. It says they could contain dyes that could endanger the health of children. These brands have been targeted by Beijing after they said they were concerned by reports of forced labour being used in cotton harvesting in Xinjiang province. Under international pressure, a number of brands have stopped using cotton from that region.
Turning next to the United States, which has threatened new tariffs over taxes on tech companies.
Washington is making these threats of tariffs on $2 billion worth of goods from India, Italy, Spain, Turkey, Austria and the UK because of the digital services tax those countries have put in place, which mainly target US companies. But the measures have been suspended for 6 months pending ongoing talks on reform of the international taxation system. Finance ministers from the G7 large economies due to meet tomorrow to discuss that issue.
Now, back here in France, businesses are continuing to prepare for the next stage of the reopening scheduled for next week. Wednesday.
June 9th, Wednesday, an important day as gyms reopen, indoor dining will come back as well, but also it will allow attractions like amusement parks to reopen. They've had a particularly difficult time under the pandemic and are hoping for a busy summer season ahead.
This theme park outside Paris may seem like a ghost town, but behind the scenes, it's a hive of activity. Employees of the Mer de Sable, Sea of Sand amusement park, only have a few days left before reopening to the public.
Le compte à rebours a commencé, donc là, la pression monte, toujours. Les veilles d'ouverture, c'est toujours un peu plus nerveux, quoi.
There are some 200 new employees to train. Many are thrilled to have found work again.
Trouver un travail, c'était vraiment quelque chose d'assez difficile dans ces derniers temps. Du coup, voilà, satisfait et heureux.
The park even feared not finding enough people to hire on short notice. So back in April, they filled a third of the seasonal jobs and placed them on furlough until the government set June 9th as the opening date.
Étant donné qu'ils étaient en contrat, ils savaient qu'ils auraient leur emploi par derrière et nous, on est sûr d'avoir qu'ils soient là à l'ouverture, quoi.
And there is work to do. Despite a 45% dip in revenue because of COVID, the theme park decided to go ahead with building a new €3 billion roller coaster. It's a long-term bet to attract new visitors.
C'était très important pour nous de voir sur le long terme. Comme je vous l'ai dit, c'est entre 20 et 30 ans pour l'amortir. Donc on perd peut-être une année d'exploitation, c'est ce qu'on a perdu. Mais bon, ça fait un 20e qu'on va amortir sur les 19 années restantes.
For a sector that employs 30,000 people and brings in €3 billion every year, the amusement park industry in France has been hit hard by COVID-related closures. Government aid covering up to 70% of fixed costs has helped. But now this park is hoping to corral the crowds.
This question is, Joanna, which will you be rushing out to do next Wednesday? A restaurant, the gym, or an amusement park?
The gym, because my my membership has expired, so I need to make sure that I'm getting some couple of months back.
Time to remind them you exist.
Exactly. So, what about you?
Restaurants, definitely.
Restaurants, but you can eat now, just outside.
I know, in the rain, yeah.
Stephen, thank you very much for that. Stephen Carroll there with the Business News. We're going to take a quick break. More coming up. Stay with us. This is France 24.